Welcome to another video on USA P&C insurance regulatory news. Unexpected premium rate increases in any geography can create a financial burden for insurance consumers. Regulators across different geographies continuously try to monitor these rate increases. With this objective in mind, the state of Oklahoma in the USA has introduced a new legislation under which P&C insurers must obtain prior approval under the File and Rate Law. This new regulation is scheduled to become effective from July 1, 2027. In this video, let us look at the key points of this legislation.
Welcome to This Explainer. We're running today's session like a high-speed news clipping reel, so strap in. If you've been tracking the headlines out of Oklahoma lately, you know there is a massive shift coming to the property and casualty insurance landscape. We're talking about House Bill 3781. This legislation is basically rewriting the entire rule book on how insurance companies operate in the state. My goal today? Well, it's to cut through all that dense legislative speak and show you exactly what this means for your wallet. All right, let's jump right in.
Okay, let's be real for a second. Is there literally anything more frustrating than opening your mail and finding out your insurance premium just skyrocketed? You know the drill. You didn't file a claim, absolutely nothing about your situation changed, but boom, your bill goes up anyway. It's an incredibly common financial pain point. Consumers have been feeling totally blindsided by these sudden increases for years. You're just left scrambling, right? Trying to adjust your budget to fit a rate hike that seemingly came out of nowhere? That feeling of being totally caught off guard, that is exactly what's at the heart of today's explainer.
And that brings us to this breaking news headline. New bill, insurance rate hikes to be reviewed before going into effect in Oklahoma. Now that word before, that is a real game changer here. We aren't looking at some retroactive fix or an apology long after the cash has already left your bank account. The whole philosophy here is shifting to preventative oversight. So grab a coffee and let's get into this fast-paced briefing on how this whole new system is actually going to be enforced.
Moving right along to Section 1, the mechanics. Before versus after.
To really grasp the magnitude of this change, we've got to look under the hood and ditch the industry jargon. So under the old, fundamentally flawed use and file system, insurance companies had this wild freedom to just raise your rates, start charging you more, and then basically tap the state on the shoulder afterward to say, hey, we did this. They acted first. But the new reality under House Bill 3781 is a file and wait system. This new mandate requires insurers to submit their proposed increases to the Oklahoma Insurance Department in advance. They have to file their paperwork, make their case, and then they just have to hit the brakes. They gotta wait. They can no longer pull the trigger on a rate hike without letting the state look over their shoulder first.
All right, next up, Section 2, the enforcer. New powers for the commissioner.
So a law like file and wait is obviously only as good as the person enforcing it, right? And that brings us to the real consumer defense arc of the story. It's not just about making insurers wait. It's about giving the Oklahoma Insurance Commissioner a massive expansion of authority. This waiting period? It's not just some vague suggestion. There is now a hard, legally binding 30-day deadline. In what the state considers competitive markets, insurance companies are legally bound to submit their rate filings and then wait 30 full days with that rate completely frozen. That's 30 days for the state to actually open the file, crunch the numbers, and see if the hike is actually justified before a single consumer pays a penny more.
But wait, the law goes even further. For non-competitive markets, those areas where consumers might have fewer choices and therefore need even more robust protection, that mandatory waiting period actually doubles to 60 days. So insurers have to submit their filings at least 2 whole months before they can implement a thing. That gives the insurance department ample lead time to deeply scrutinize those proposed changes. It literally flips the script from the old raise it now, explain it later model.
And during those 30 or 60 days, what's the commissioner actually doing? Well, they're hunting for specific red flags. They're looking for rates that are unreasonably high, discriminatory, or just flat out unfair. If a proposed hike smells like any of those 3 things, the commissioner now has the explicit authority to challenge it. They can demand the insurers hand over their actuarial data, all that incredibly complex math and statistics they use to calculate risk. If the numbers just don't add up, if the data doesn't back up the massive hike they want to pass on to you, the commissioner now has the real teeth to step in and protect consumers from bad rates.
Which brings us to Section 3, transparency for consumers, bringing rates into the light.
Now, it's obviously great that the commissioner has these new powers behind closed doors, but House Bill 3781 also bakes in some incredible public awareness measures, directly empowering everyday homeowners and drivers. It brilliantly highlights the actual human intent behind all this dense legislation. Representative Stacey Jo Adams really hit the nail on the head here. She said, Oklahomans deserve to understand what is driving these insurance increases and to know that rates are based on real data, not just timing or process. She's directly calling out that old system where increases just felt like arbitrary timing instead of, a mathematical necessity. This new law is all about forcing insurance companies to show their work with real, hard data, and finally acknowledging that consumers have a fundamental right to understand why on earth they're being asked to pay more.
And to guarantee that right to understand, the law mandates a whole new level of public exposure. Notices of increases, along with the overall percentage change, absolutely must be published publicly on the Oklahoma Insurance Department website. And this specifically targets the policies that affect us the most: private passenger automobile, homeowners multi-peril, and dwelling fire policies. So no more hidden rate hikes buried somewhere in the fine print. If they want to raise the rate on your car or your home, that overall percentage change is going to be posted right there online for everyone in the entire state to see.
Let's wrap things up with Section 4, the timeline. When does it start?
Okay, so this all sounds amazing, right? But turning a massive legislative ship like this doesn't just happen overnight. We need to set some realistic, concrete expectations for when Oklahoma consumers will actually see these protections kick in. So back in May of 2026, this bill first started making headlines. Right now, we're sitting right in the middle of a transition phase. Insurance companies are preparing, the State Department is gearing up its enforcement mechanisms, and all the final rules are being ironed out. But the absolute critical date you need to circle in big red marker on your calendar is July 1, 2027. That is the exact date when House Bill 3781 officially takes full effect. That's the day the use and file era officially dies and these new file and wait protections go live.
Which leaves us with one final burning question. Will this new oversight be enough to finally stabilize your insurance bills? We've walked through the mechanics. We know the commissioner now has the power to demand that hard actuarial data, and we know that transparency is absolutely coming by July 2027. But is it going to be enough to stop the bleeding? Well, that's the ultimate test, isn't it? It is going to be absolutely fascinating to track how the commissioner flexes these new muscles once the law actually goes into effect. Definitely keep a close eye on your premiums and keep an eye on that state website next summer. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I absolutely cannot wait to dive into our next topic with you.
Thank you for watching the Quick Bite series from www.insurtech.com. Please like and subscribe to our videos for you to get notification when we upload new videos.